Hello everyone. Welcome to GW Prime Live. Your where is here. I am Nivedita Mohanta, your host for today's session. For nearly 6 decades and spread across more than 100 countries, Palladium has been working with governments, businesses, and communities to solve some of the world's most pressing issues by formulating strategies, building partnerships, mobilizing capital, and implementing programs that have a lasting social and financial impact. Palladium's mission in India started in 2004, and they have been at the forefront of innovation, driving transformative solutions that enhance lives, uplift communities, and contribute to a brighter future for all. Today we have with us Mr. Amit Pajoshi, CEO Palladium India, to discuss the key challenges India is facing in terms of climate resilience and disaster management and ways to tackle them in this session. Welcome to our channel, Amit.
Thank you very much, and look forward to the discussion.
So, my first question is: what are the key challenges that India is facing in terms of climate resilience and disaster management?
In fact, it's a very interesting story around climate resilience and disaster management, which India is seeing across. As in, since 2005, post the Disaster Management Act, there has been considerable progress. We have become better in prevention, preparedness, response. However, the sheer scale of our population itself and the diverse climatic challenges itself make us more vulnerable to climate change and disaster. Take for an example on the infrastructure part, as in with particularly which is susceptible to various impacts from natural disasters like floods, cyclone, earthquakes. It is having cascading effects across regions. Let's say, example, we are in the monsoon season. At the onset of the monsoon, we saw quite a few flood-related issues with Assam, Bihar, some parts in Maharashtra and Orissa also saw quite a few landslides, which is having a disastrous effect in the Uttarakhand region and so on, so Himalayas region and so on and so forth. Now, what exactly does it? Not just impact the infrastructure, it impact business, tourism, livelihoods, and with this recurrent disaster. As in, I am from Orissa. Every year we see a severe cyclone in the belt of Orissa, as in Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, and with this recurrent disasters, it is eroding the public infrastructure, and entire effort which goes out in rebuilding the resources is taking away some resources from core sectors like health, education, and not the least to say that it is not just impacting on human livelihoods, but also affecting the biodiversity, affecting the animals, and so on and so forth. So at this point of time, I believe our biggest challenge is how do we shift from a reactive to a proactive disaster management approach. There has been great amount of frameworks around it, but yes, with as I said, with the sheer scale of population, with the multiple organizations leading with the disaster management and climate resilience, it is important how exactly we trickle that down to the grassroots level. How exactly we ensure that the risk assessment is done at a grassroots level, what kind of coordination we need to have with local authorities, with the block level authorities, with the state level authorities, for that matter, with the national level authorities. So with this multiple challenges, I believe we are in a space wherein we have to shift it to a more proactive approach, shift it to while the policies are there. A fantastic policy has been made in terms of updating the building bylaws, for that matter, in every state, but we need to ensure that there have been strict compliance to those aspects. We have now smart cities, we have now PMAY, but a little bit more emphasis on climate resilience, disaster risk readiness, and so on. So within that, in fact, the recent announcement in the budget, which was done by Honorable Finance Minister, focusing after the 15th Finance Commission focused on preparedness and mitigation, was this urban disaster management authorities at every ULB. So that's a very welcome step. Now, so this is why there are challenges. There are some great steps to be coming in, but yes, to ensure that we are more instead of focusing more on disaster response, focusing more on proactive mitigation is crucial for building resilience. And that's where, while the challenges there are opportunities galore to ensure that we address to those challenges.
Like you mentioned about smart cities and urban planning, which was mentioned in the financial budget,
Yeah.
there is another aspect of people who are staying in rural areas and where farmers stay. So India is particularly vulnerable to climate extremes like heat waves, floods, and droughts hamper the agriculture productions, and the most ultimately the farmers bear the brunt of it all. So how can the farmers be safeguarded from the impacts of climate change, and how can a climate resilient agriculture system be developed? Can you share some specific examples of your work in this sector?
In fact, just before sharing the examples, I must say that there has to be a comprehensive disaster planning and management across all levels. And when we say across all levels, it is not leaving out that urban should be taken care of, the rural part would not be taken care of. It has to be in every sector wise, whether it is agri, whether it is as an industries, whether it is urban aspect also, as well as should be taken across all levels. One of the example I would highlight that we are implementing a comprehensive disaster planning management unit for government of Maharashtra, wherein the focus is to enhance the capacity of state, district, and even villages to just respond to, not just to respond to the disasters, but how to prevent and mitigate them effectively. That would also have a component of how we can induce climate smart agriculture and other strategies which would ensure that they are mitigated to the disaster which in any case is there. And so far I must say that it's been almost a year or so with the government of Maharashtra. We have helped them mobilize 350 million USD in public funds, specifically for mitigation project across the coastal district of Maharashtra, which is more prone to floods, more prone to cyclones, so on. So yeah, and these funds are being utilized to build resilience from cyclones, storm surge, landslides. While these are there, the other part which we are right now working in beyond Konkan mitigation, wherein the droughts and other kind of disaster are there. So the focus here is not just reducing the disaster resilience related casualty, but how exactly we are mitigating economic losses also, whether it is agri losses, whether it is urban losses, whether it is various other aspect of it by through innovative risk management measures. Of course, right now, taking a step further, we have been engaged by government of Orissa right now to implement a cell broadcasting system under strengthening resilience through early warning dissemination technology system. And I'm sure you would agree that Odisha is one of the pioneer in disaster management, and I'm glad that we have been given an opportunity to further ensure that their disaster resilience is further improved through such technology. So with this aspect, these are a couple of programs which we are doing, not confining our approach to a urban or a rural, but overall ecosystem strengthening. So these are two of the examples in India, and of course there are quite a few global examples having spent almost 60 years dedicated on disaster management. Palladium has been supporting almost 120 countries under various programs, whether it is preparedness, whether it is mitigation, whether it is humanitarian response. And I would like to highlight a couple of our global programs, whether it is Australian Climate Pacific Climate Partnership, wherein we are helping the Pacific Islands making more climate and disaster informed, or for that matter, Australia India partnership on DRM, which is focused on enhancing cooperation between Australia and Indonesia on various humanitarian issues. We are helping this, while in Maharashtra we are helping the disaster management authority in the state. A similar program in Indonesia, we are helping the disaster management authority in Indonesia, focusing more on districts, villages, and how we improve the disaster preparedness, response, and recovery across those entities. So these are some of the examples. While I must say that while you do so, the focus is to how to integrate the disaster risk reduction, climate adaptation in our development effort, so that the beneficiaries for you started with your question regarding the smallholding farmers, how they can benefit from it. For example, in one of our project called BRICIT. The smallholding farmers in Nepal are innovating climate smart technologies like drip irrigation, renewable energy system to make it more disaster resilient, climate smart agriculture, and now earning an extra income. So the more the communities see that it is not just a policy driven, top down driven, it is benefiting them financially, socially, and environmentally, there would be acceptability. And most of our programs are aimed at that particular ecosystem transformation, ensuring that the communities or the indigenous parts of the communities are involved in it. And these are some of the examples I mentioned.
So, my next question is related to that. How do you empower micro entrepreneurs and grassroots innovators? And what kind of changes do you see in the economic landscape, both locally and globally?
As in, at Palladium, what we do is that we try to see that how we build resilience, not just in responding disaster after they happen, but how we prepare, mitigate the risk, and create systems that can withstand this challenge again and again. Now, let me give you an example when you mentioned about how exactly we empower the micro entrepreneurs and so on. So that there is a program called Peru Cocoa Alliance, which is in Peru, wherein our mandate was to improve forestation and so on and so forth. What we did is that we transformed the behavioral change within the farmers. We ensured that we ensured that there is a economic viability of the programs there. We ensured that they transition from illicit as in cocaine farming to cocoa with behavioral change. And it was a revolutionary project wherein we created competitive advantage for the farmers by unlocking the capital from private sector, bringing in blended financing, public-private financing, and enabling small line of credit. Now, over 5 years, with the strengthening of the communities, the farm size has tripled. They have moved from cocaine to cocoa. The productivity has doubled. Peru, which was the 10th variety of the cocoa producer in the world, is now the second largest facility cocoa producer in the world. This initiative not only improved the livelihoods but also demonstrated how public private collaboration could bring large scale agri transformation, build a resilience against climate impacts. And this is one such example where we have ensured that the grassroots level, the communities are more involved to bring in large scale climate action change. And I'm sure there will be so many examples which we can find in India, and I'm glad that we are moving in that direction to achieve the same.
Right. So, according to the United Nations data, 80% of the women get affected by climate change. So, what sort of initiatives or steps should be taken by the governments to help women and other vulnerable communities to tackle climate related extreme events?
Look, as in across all our programs, as in being a global impact firm, we just don't design program. We work as a delivery partner in ensuring that whatever global experience we have, we adapt to the local context and ensure achieve large scale transformation. And most of our program, there has been a great learning. For example, whether it is women, vulnerable groups, or for example, the communities around forest. Our philosophy is that when we are aiming to protect forest, whether it is for a drastic climate change or man-made events, the communities are the torchbearer of protection of forests. So if we empower the communities, that is how we empower the overall ecosystem. There would be as in great forest restoration and so on and so forth. Similarly, when you're talking about livelihoods, women are the pioneers in, and or women are the torchbearers in ensuring sustainable rural livelihoods. In many of our inclusive growth program, whether farm or non-farm, we ensure that we empower traditional technologies, we empower women and vulnerable groups to see a benefit in the program. For example, let me give you example of, as I gave an example of partnership of forest, sorry, the Peru one. Let me give an example of partnership of forest. It's a program running across a couple of countries. What it aims: develop forest partnership between whom? Private players, public sector players, and communities who are dependent on the forest. The aim is to catalyze investment in the forest so that they promote sustainable land use, which in turn help in restoration of forest, and it helps not just ensuring that these concepts are commercially scaled up, ensuring the forest are reserves, it also helps local communities to benefit economically. Similarly, we just recently are on the verge of completion of a program on non-farm livelihoods, wherein our mandate in the state of Orissa was to train 10,000 entrepreneurs or to be entrepreneurs and create 1,000 of them. We have achieved almost 80% of women entrepreneurs within that. And some of them are adapting climate specific solutions to move ahead and do their entrepreneurship. So once we start strengthening the communities, whether it is any vulnerable communities or women, that is where we empower them to ensure that they address the overall ecosystem in a more sustainable manner. And a fantastic example is two of our project, I would say. Let's say, for example, we are doing a project under Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in Odisha with a mandate to transform APO ecosystem. There are tribal and vulnerable groups in the remotest corner of Orissa. Now, with climate smart agriculture and other climate specific interventions, as well as more from a perspective of farmer producer organizations interventions, there is a group of farmers who are now exporting lemongrass to France, to UK, and so on and so forth. And that's where we are empowering the communities to stand on their own, expose them to market linkages and financial linkages to achieve the desired impact, and also ensure that all climate resilient initiatives are also taken care of, so that their approach is more sustainable. Similar example is an UK project we are doing in regeneration, wherein along with a climate advisory firm in UK, wherein we are accelerating nature restoration and planetary protection by creating inclusive regenerative evolution for tropical commodities like coffee, cocoa, and so on. So, and interestingly, again, as I said, in all our programs, our stakeholders are communities, investors, because we need to make it sustainable. We need to bring in private capital with focus on development of communities, focus on development of value chains around it, so that there is a economic growth, as well as ensuring that the communities are, or for that matter, vulnerable communities are involved. So that's where our work has been, our approach has been overall across, whether it is forestry, whether it is just management, whether it is agriculture, and so on and so forth.
So, as a global impact firm, how do you integrate global expertise and best practices into your climate and disaster management initiatives in India?
Cousin, I would take a step back, stating that Palladium is a global impact firm. I would rather call it as we are a delivery partner. We design, develop our own solutions and implement it. It's been almost 60 years, and interestingly, 20th year in India. Now, while we do that, we understand that the advantage of being a delivery partner is that you design a solution and make it happen with a clear outcome in hand. Uh, and while we do that, we adapt our extensive global experience, which has happened in various circumstances, various challenging situations, various geographies, bring the local context, the indigenous practices, and curate them to ensure that we achieve large scale transformation in true delivery speed. And that is where our positioning within the market here is that we are a delivery partner to achieve large scale transformation with true delivery speed, ensuring that the global expertise is back in the forum with curated local indigenous challenges. And every other program, as in with 60 years of experience, presence across 90 countries, some of the disaster programs are actually working across 120 countries. Every other program, there is a learning, there is an outcome which we trace, which we follow, and try to see that can that be curated to a local context and Indian context wherever we operate. For that matter, anything right now which we are doing in India is a large scale project, might be a small pilot. As in anything globally we are doing might be a small pilot for India, or anything which we are doing in India, it's a great learning for other of my colleagues elsewhere. So we are cross learning. We are ensuring that the best practices across both the worlds come together, curate the local context, and exist.
So, this is my last question. Looking ahead, what emerging trends or areas of focus do you foresee in this sector?
As in, you have already touched upon a couple of them in your previous questions, as in I'm sure climate change and all other consequences is no misnomer right now, the reality right now, and it is impacting all of us. And we, as a private sector organization, has a responsibility to play to ensure that we chase the outcome, not just the output. We chase the results, we chase the impact, and Palladium being a global impact firm focusing on impact, that's our prime objective. Some of the trends which we are trying to embed in most of our programs is to how to empower local entrepreneurs and businesses to innovate and accelerate that nature and climate positive ideas. There are quite a few discussions happening with local communities. Second, while there is a need to integrate traditional knowledge, empower local communities, we need to ensure that we attract investors, we attract private companies to ensure there is a sustainable financing support also. Palladium has been implementing quite a few interesting, innovative financial models. The one which I mentioned about a program called Rever in UK, wherein we are transforming 15 UK national park by catalyzing private finance involving into nature restoration by nature capital financing. So how do we attract investors to using investment strategies to with localized success so that it can be replicated on a large scale? That is a second trend we see to improve nature capital financing. Third, how exactly whatever solutions we implement um, uh, ensure that we leverage those indigenous knowledges and practices, co-design the solutions along with the community. So that is the third part. Fourth part is that integrating climate finance systematically, ensuring there are policy level changes incorporated with economic and environmental objectives right across government as well as private. And of course, achieving these all trends or solutions by scale. We are running out of time. We are at a situation then that all the activities, all the initiatives which have been discussed around should have been done yesterday. So we should ensure that all this sustainable initiative sustainable and should work on speed and scale. So these are four trends I see. While there are a lot of talks around what exactly climate strategies to be done, whether it in agri, whether it in urban space, and so on. So time now to ensure that we do it in speed, scale, and change, making it more sustainable, binding the relationship between private player, between communities, between government, and other stakeholders together.
Thank you, Amit, for sharing your expertise and your time. I'm sure the audience had an amazing time listening to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. Look forward to more questions and interaction sessions like this. Thank you very much.